Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 24th day of June 2025. In studio, I have Robert Mbui, Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency and Deputy Minority Leader at National Assembly. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, Sam, and good morning, viewers.
Diana Gishengo is the Executive Director, the Institute of Social Accountability. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam, and good morning, Kenyans.
And we have Bernard Njiri, who is a Senior Research Analyst at the IPF, Institute of Public Finance. Good morning.
Morning, Sam, and good morning to our viewers.
Great. And you're expecting the arrival of Julius Ruto, who is the Member of Parliament for Keses and member of the Finance and Planning Committee at the National Assembly. The reason why we are here is to have a conversation about the reforms the country has made or not over the last 1 year since the promise by the President that several things are going to happen following the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. Among them, austerity measures, cutting budgets, cutting on confidential votes, cutting on development expenditure that was touching on some institutions like the presidency or State House and the office of the Deputy President. What have we seen later? A year later, rather. Before we get into that conversation, yesterday there were several conversations going on at different locations. A report released by IMLU indicating that over 600 persons have been injured over the last 1 year, especially touching on the 2024 protests, killings, about 63, no justice being served. The Independent Police Oversight Authority, led by the chairperson Isaka Sani, is saying that the biggest challenge is non-cooperation by the police service, to an extent that only 25% of cases of police officers killed, or rather, members of the public who are killed or die in police custody are reported. The rest having to come out as reports from complainants, families, media, as well as a public outrage. But before then, the warmongers is the main story that is on the Daily Nation. Some of President William Ruto's allies have sent a chilling warning to Gen Z, civil society activists and opposition politicians planning to take part in the countrywide protest tomorrow to mark the first anniversary of the June 2025 historic invasion of Parliament, that they may not return to their homes. These regrettable statements, apart from stoking public anger, depict state officials who are insensitive to the plight of Kenyans who lost their loved ones in the deadly demos against punitive taxes and government excesses, and risk plunging the country into anarchy. That's the main story that is on the Daily Nation. But on the Standard, they are talking about exposed in a chilling expose. Is it? The Standard uncovers messaging in WhatsApp groups run by government bloggers and officials, UDS Secretariat staff and parastatal chiefs, where they have been planning how to infiltrate peaceful protests in the city, generating propaganda aimed at media houses and prominent individuals seen critical of the government. The tactics include unleashing goons to cause mayhem with clear instructions to steal smartphones from protesters to stop them from capturing images of the protests and police brutality. Now, those are the headlines this morning, but I want us to begin from the point where different agencies are saying that no justice has been served to the Gen Z protesters. Diana, what do you say to this, and how do you ensure there is accountability at a time that IPOA is already saying that it has faced quite some serious challenges, especially on cooperation from the National Police Service?
Of course, it's a very sad thing and unfortunate that as we commemorate June 25th, the day the Kenyan people decided to exercise in the biggest way the sovereign power of the people. They were met with brute force. They were killed. A number were killed. Their mothers and fathers continue to weep for justice, but nothing has moved. My expectation would have been that based on what happened on June 25th, Parliament would have led the country as the house of national conversation in a process that gives us justice, and the demands of the Gen Zs were very clear. We must definitely begin with justice for those who were killed, those who are injured, and some based on the death of Albert. You can see even government understands there must be a sense of initial compensation and redress. I think the bar was set at, we should start at 4.5 million for every life lost, then we start the conversation. That is the bar they set. Or, I don't know, the sympathy they showed. The sympathy they showed last week when Albert Ochieng, the president, Ojwang, sorry, gave 2 million, the prime minister gave 1 million, the county gave, I think, 4.5, then we start the none of that happened. We have no inquiry based on the magnitude. Either an independent one should have been established by Parliament to report to it, or Parliament should have conducted hearing across the country. Right. Instead, we were told that the president recently apologized in a fumbled way during a prayer breakfast, and it ended there. IPOA has not moved. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights continues to give us numbers. I doubt for the murders, only Rex, we have seen people being arraigned, an inquest that is going on, and what we are hearing just doesn't make sense. But when over 60 people are murdered in a country, we should have a national inquest, because justice in this particular situation is transitional justice, is reparative, is restorative. What we hear instead is a Parliament reminds us, you people said reject the finance bill. We passed it in December. Who died? People have died. And that was never the tone. It was, please relook our fiscal processes. The message reject the finance bill was the government does not need to raise additional revenue until it can utilize what it has raised in a prudent way, until we put an end to corruption, until we put an end to inappropriate and unnecessary expenditure. Have those stopped? No. More advisors have been appointed. More ministries and state departments have been created in the most recent reshuffle, which has been held by the broad-based government. Nothing serious on corruption has happened whatsoever. And then we have said, leaders, just respect us and stop mocking us and acting arrogant. We are your employers. We are your bosses. Treat us with the respect that we deserve as Kenyans. Has that happened? No, it has not happened. If you look at the headlines, they are still, even the people who are on the street, they are just the politicians. When they come, please, Kenya, wa Kenya, tunastahili heshima. Tunastahili heshima. Na heshima is not what we are seeing 1 year down the line. People have already started going back to the street. It is not a contest. It is about reclaiming this country and resetting this country. We are so far from that.
Oh, all right. Now, Bernard, I know this is not your daily cup, but we have to talk about things, because when you hear reports of 63 people killed, over 600 injured, when the IPOA chair says that they're still waiting on feedback from the DPP on 21 files, which have been pending with them over a few months, how does justice come about?
Thanks, Sam. Like Diana has said, there is what led us to where we got to in 2024. And part of that was the feeling by the citizens, and particularly the young people in this country, that every time they turn up for public participation, their voice does not seem to count. And then we heard those voices from, various members of parliament, seeming to mock the voices of the people. So that led us to the June 2024 protests. But now, 1 year down the line, still so many families seeking for justice. So when the DPP says, there are still files being processed 1 year down the line, and then IPOA still in the process of looking for evidence, you wonder how can we achieve justice when public resources are being allocated to those offices and nothing seems to move. And I would like to say, we cannot talk. We should not be talking about justice when some officials, be it public officials, be it police officers, seem to act recklessly towards Kenyans who are seeking, to reclaim their country. Because we should not kill first, then apologize. We should not kill first, then talk about compensation. At the very best, we should not lose any life. So as we talk about justice, let's first address what takes us to the streets, what takes young people or any Kenyan to the streets, and then what needs to be done to prevent any loss of life. Because we should not at any given time be talking about those statistics. It can trigger more than what we even witnessed last year. And I think as we commemorate the June 2024 protests, I think it's a wake-up call also to Parliament to try and laugh for some of the things that have happened over the last 1 year, and also for the DPP and also IPOA to move with speed and precision.
Okay, speed and precision is now, Mheshimiwa Mbui, during this time, and also to welcome Mheshimiwa Julius Ruto from Kesses constituency. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mheshimiwa Mbui, so 1 year later, families, and you've been seeing the stories on different platforms, including Citizen TV, of what those wounds mean to individuals and to families, individuals who are still nursing injuries, some people that their lives have been transformed. You just watched a story there of someone whose leg had to be amputated. They're not having to go about their business of welding in the situation you find them. Why hasn't Parliament thought about these individuals?
I think when you talk about Parliament is an institution that many of us somehow outside here don't seem to understand how it operates. There is a hierarchy of leadership, and there is also the issue of the democracy, which is in numbers, that plays a very important role in Parliament. First and foremost, any attempt to have a motion that will end up at the floor of the House is actually not every member has a right to do that. They can only attempt to do it. There has to be an approval from the Speaker of the Assembly. So many times people will castigate members for not doing certain things, not knowing that members might attempt and they will not even be allowed. On the issue of Albert Ojwang, for example, members attempted to have an adjournment motion where there would be a discussion about the brutal murder of Albert Ojwang. The Senate allowed it, National Assembly did not. National Assembly Speaker allowed a question to be put to the CS, and then the committee met the CS. But when the report was brought to the House, we attempted to debate. I actually tried to confront him on the floor to get an opportunity to express my dissatisfaction with not only what they had said in that meeting, but I wasn't allowed, and I was told, wait for next week so that you can talk about it. I'll give you enough time next week. Now, sometimes
when is next week?
Next week now is this week.
Okay.
Because this was last week. Yeah. But you see, at the end, you must realize that sometimes if you don't hit the iron when it's hot, there's too much water under the bridge, so many other things will happen. For example, by the time we probably get to discuss this, it will have been overtaken by what is likely to happen tomorrow, because tomorrow the young generation of Kenya wants to commemorate their loved ones and their friends who died last year, and for no good reason. So basically, unfortunately, they are very well-wishing members in Parliament, but unfortunately, the hierarchy, the leadership sometimes denies them an opportunity. There's also many times we have motions, bills, debates, and people want to even make a contribution and even speak on the floor of the House. Remember, it is also the responsibility of the presiding speaker at that time, either speaker or one of the members of the speaker's panel, to decide who speaks. So again, there can be an attempt to ensure that those who have a dissenting voice will never be heard on the floor of the House.
So you're telling me, for a whole year, nobody has come up with a motion to speak about those that we lost and even perhaps consider compensation?
We have talked about some of those issues. The thing is, Sam, I want to tell you, in talking about them, I have talked about it. I am a victim. You remember, I'm a victim of police brutality. And I at every opportunity, I will always talk about it. But we are talking about a structured plan where you will have a motion that will be debated so that at the end of the day, there's compensation. Now, anytime there is an issue concerning money, and this is important for Kenyans to know, that must be approved by the committee called the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Yeah. And they cannot also approve without the consent of Treasury. So it's a very murky place we operate. Yes, it is in the Constitution. No. It is in the Constitution. I will look for the article to show you that there must be concurrence and consultation with the National Treasury. Any money bill, look at articles, I think from 115 somewhere there. No, I'm not sure that it's 115, but I'll find the article. There has to be consultation with the National Treasury. So unfortunately, many times, if you attempt to come up with a motion or a bill that has elements that have money implications, then it has to go to that committee, and that committee has to consult with the Treasury to come up with an agreement. So many are the times when members might attempt to do some of these things and it doesn't work. But I'm not saying that we have done much about the compensation. Some, I will tell you, many of us are discouraged, highly discouraged, because of operating under a situation where you find that your voice will never mean anything. You will say things, but it will not, when it comes to voting, you will be voted down. You will be shouted down. That is one of the things that discourages many of us. And I will tell you that no one on the side of this blood-based government will be willing to even bother to discuss compensation. And some, let me tell you, the Kenya Kwanza regime doesn't learn anything. They believe in brute force. You saw recently when Albert Ojwang was killed, and they went out to the youth went out to seek, in fact, Kenyans went out to speak and ask for justice for Albert Ojwang. What did they do? They unleashed goons. Goons that are paid most likely by people that are state operatives. Why do I say that? Because you saw them with crude weapons in the streets. Article 37 that allows demonstrations is very clear that you must be peaceful and you must be unarmed. I don't see when somebody is carrying a whip and a rungu, whether you can say that person is unarmed. Those are the people you expect the police to restrain, and even if they are to use some force, they use force on such people. But these are the people that were being escorted by the police to meet fear and beat up innocent protesters. So it's a very unfortunate thing. And some, they are even talking about it. You had the member for Tiati just, in a public baraza in his constituency, telling us that he's going to carry all these young fellas from his region, the rustlers, cattle rustlers, bring them to the city to beat up innocent demonstrators. I mean, that's a kind of Kenya we are running. It's a very, very unfortunate situation. And some, I want to apologize on behalf of Parliament that many things we can do, we don't do. And it's because some of us get discouraged. And the things that, you never know where you'll end up, because you start with a good plan and it ends up getting messed up. You saw the demos of last year. We were fighting against the finance bill. And because the youth were also fighting against the finance bill, we were working together. But immediately after 60 of them were killed, a government of blood was formed. My colleagues were appointed to cabinet. And that was the solution to the problem of the young people that came out to the streets. It's a very unfortunate situation. And maybe it's important to talk about why is it that they were in the streets, because many times we demonize our youth for no reason. These are people that were just complaining about the taxes that were being introduced by the new regime. And you know what? First and foremost, when taxes go up, it means people have less disposable income. And do you know that the salaries have dropped 6 times since this regime came into power because of the increases in tax? and also some of the other deductions. Yeah, NSSF went up. It is a saving, but it is also coming from the salary. When it goes up, it means you save money for later. You have none to spend now. NSSF went up. NHIF went up. Soon after that, they changed. They introduced the housing levy. That reduces salaries. After that, NHIF changed to SHA. Again, it went up to 2.75% of the gross salary. After that, NSSF again has gone up. I mean, it's a constant increase. And remember, also pay-as-you-earn went up. So 6 times salaries have dropped within those 2 years. So these young people are right to come to the streets. Again, cost of goods and services had to go up because the minute you introduce taxes like VAT on fuel, that makes every price go up.
All right, Mheshimiwa, we'll get to the details shortly. I've found the article you're talking about, Article 114, Article 2, which says, if in the opinion of the Speaker of the National Assembly, a motion takes provision for a matter listed in the definition of a money bill, the Assembly may proceed only in accordance with the recommendation of the relevant committee of the Assembly after taking into account the views of the Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance. I suppose that's what you're referring to.
That's what I was referring to, yes.
Now, Mheshimiwa Ruto...
And thank you for finding it. I was trying to figure out what is the article. But I was close. I was at 115. It's 114.
Yes, 115 is on the presidential assent and referral.
Oh, yeah.
Mheshimiwa Ruto, the same question, why Parliament? Because he says the reason is because he perhaps is on the wrong side of history of Parliament, as is today. For you, you're on the side of government. Why is it, apart from last week when you saw, the week before, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury asking members of Parliament to rise up in a moment of silence, we have not seen, unless we missed it, an acknowledgement that people actually lost lives, people are injured, and to even consider what justice would look to them and their families?
Thank you so much. And I want to appreciate my colleague. He's one of the leaders in the National Assembly, being the minority deputy leader.
Minority leader.
Yes. And quoting the Constitution, speaks good that this as House have knowledgeable people. When they dispense issues, they dispense according with the law. First of all, it's good to appreciate the fact that Parliament is an independent arm of government. And therefore, it has no aspect of saying from the side of government or from the side of minority or majority. Parliament is an institution independent from executive, and that is what the Constitution of Kenya dictates. Whereas I'm aware that from last year, we have had several discussions, even in the floor of the House, as to the magnitude, to the level of the compensation. Probably the question we should be asking ourselves, is there data, a clear data that has been put in place? Because since then, we discussed, we've been asking whether there would be inquiry to it. Well, I think from our House, no step has been made to form a commission of inquiry or a committee of inquiry to that matter. I've had Kenyans asking for the same, that a book can be opened so that we can inquire and establish exactly the number of people, so that as we are talking of compensation, let's talk of holistic compensation of Kenyans who died and those who suffered. And which is also unfortunate.
Sorry, Parliament is unaware that people died?
No, I'm asking, Senate had a full discussion. You know, Parliament is one.
Yeah.
Senate and National Assembly is one.
Yeah.
They had their report,
yes,
and they have discussed it, and they have made the recommendation to it. But I've never seen maybe an attempt of establishing a committee, like, you know, we had a OCO inquiry. You remember those times? I've never seen up to now.
Yeah.
Probably, these are issues that we need to discuss.
You think we need a commission of inquiry?
Probably, because when you see Kenyans are picking about it, so that some things it's good to close the file. And the best way to close this file is to bring out the whole issues and allow Kenyans to participate by expressing themselves.
What has stopped Parliament from doing that?
Okay, I'm speaking about that one from my point of view, that probably we need to go that direction. As a person, as an independent person, on my own opinion, because if this thing is recurring, it is now 2025, it's a question. I want to presume 2026 again in June, Kenyans will still be asking, we want to commemorate about it in 2027, in 2028. So to sort out this one, I think it is time that we need to get a special committee, engage Kenyans, engage the victims, engage the affected families. Let us have reports, engage agencies like IPOA. Let us have confirmed the reports, because we've been having mixed reports. Remember last time when we were told there was a massacre around, it was around Thika Road. BBC went there and they gave different report. The other medias gave different reports. So we've been having all confusions around here. So I think this is high time so that we close this file. Let us have an inquiry to it. And probably this one might help us close this matter once and for all.
Okay.
Yes.
Some can I maybe mention...
Sorry, let's take a break first. We'll come back with that, as also we talk about what has happened in terms of implementation of budgets and our management of public finance after the break. Stay tuned.